Hey there, welcome back to One on One with Bless TV. Catch the vision, share the mission. I am your host today, Omar Oliphant, and today we're going to be looking on a very interesting topic: spiritually mismatched. Why it feels right, but it goes wrong. And today we have as our guest in the hot seat for today someone who is an accomplished family life educator. We're speaking of Dr. Roy Dennis, who is the Family Life Ministries Director for the Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, and also the author, the co-author, together with his wife, of this book, Premarital Preparation Handbook, a guide for marriage officers, pastors, church leaders, and couple. And Pastor Roy Dennis has been serving the Seventh-day Adventist Church for over 20 plus years. So he's here with us today. Welcome, Dr. Dennis.
Thank you, Dr. Oliphant.
How are you doing today, sir?
I am not too bad.
Good. So today we're looking on the issue, the concept of being mismatched, feeling right about the relationship, but the relationship going wrong.
That's it.
What can go so?
What can go so? Yes, so we recognize that feelings are important, but feelings, that is not all. There are certain values and standards and principles that should govern your relationship if it is going to be a success.
Well, let's
So
look on.
that is important.
But let's look on some of those values that should govern the relationship. We want to pull out today the concept of compatibility.
Compatible.
Looking on conviction, looking on compatibility, and one's spiritual connection. Is there a relationship between the three? Can I be connected with someone and still be out of sync spiritually?
Oh yes, oh yes. And if we take it from a biblical perspective, we will see where, that people can be mismatched spiritually, even though it's socially they seem to be aligned. Now, when we talk about compatibility, we're talking about two persons' alignment heading in the same direction. You drive a vehicle, and I'm sure it's not your wife that take the vehicle to the alignment stand. But when you go there, you want to get all four wheels heading in the same direction and functioning in a particular way. So there's a spiritual aspect that the Bible speaks about, that it's a complete no-no, where the Bible says if you are not spiritually aligned, then you should not get into a relationship with a person that is not heading in the same spiritual direction as you are. And then there is the social aspect of it, where persons know their age, their other values, other social sphere that we can focus on.
Well, let's see if we can explore some of those areas, because
yes,
it can be you're going in different spiritual direction, values and conviction, understanding of your life purpose. It might be that you have different priorities in life.
yes.
So where do you see the mismatch happening in your experience during your counseling? Where do you see the mismatch most happening? I hear you cite age.
I wanted to give a definition for
from the book.
compatibility from the book. And yes, so on chapter 2, we have a chapter that speaks to some of the qualities that determines selection.
All right,
yes.
Let me do that. Let me do the reading, and then let me do the reading. Then I do it. Yeah, yeah. All right. So let me pull from it. So from your chapter 2, Dr. Dennis, you have defined compatibility, and I'll read that paragraph, which states compatibility is wider than being unequally yoked. While being unequally yoked has only to do with religious beliefs and practices, incompatibility relates to other qualities including age, education, financial status, social practices, and family upbringing. Individual temperament, whether one is outgoing or reserved, also contributes significantly to how well people will survive living together.
Okay.
Let's see if we can unpack this. The issue of age and education. Let's start with those
All
two
right.
first.
So yes. So age. Now, generally, family life practitioners will say that you should marry within your generation. That's if you want to have a functional relationship, because people marry for various reasons. And I have met a woman who married a man who was 25 years younger, as I have met men who marry women who are 25 years younger. They are of different generations. So yes, that marriage is not impossible to work. But for example, I am not a part of the texting generation. I'm a part of I like the phone running from ear to mouth. And so I like to call. And so you can see that there will be some differences there. So the recommendation is that you should marry within your generation. And a generation would be 10 years. That's what is recommended. So and preferably the man should be older. So the man should be 1 to 10 years older or 1 to 10 years younger than the woman. So age. What was the second one that we...
Education. But before we get to the issue of education, let's unpack this issue of age. Is it that we're saying that two persons who are of two different generational cohorts, or firstly, what's the span that is reasonable for marriage or a relationship? And number two, would we be saying that, or am I hearing you say that because of the difference in age, there would be a breakdown in the marriage?
Yes, so it would be like a father-daughter relationship if you are more than a certain age. And I have had counseling for people who are already married where the wife is saying, he's treating me like his daughter, because the truth is she would behave like his daughter.
So what's the age gap? What's the recommendation then in relation to age? Seeing that you're saying the male should be older and the female younger, is there an age range? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
Yes. And I did say that within 10 years.
Within 10 years. So you're saying outside of 10, it can be problematic.
It can be problematic. Okay. So the recommendation, and generally, it is said that the woman matures 2 years faster than the man. So if the man is 26 and the woman is 26, the woman's maturity would be 28. So it is, preferably that the man would be older, and so they would be the same age if the man is in terms of maturity, if the man is 2 years older.
All right, so let's look on the second point, or the point of education. How does education factor? Is it that you're saying a farmer cannot marry someone that has a master's degree?
And we're talking about the ideal functional relationship. And one of the big principal keys of effective communication, if you listen to Family Basics for Happy Home or the advertisement on NCU Radio, it is the key is communication. And especially for the woman, that is basically her number one need. And so education level is important. Some people might say, all right, maybe if the man doesn't have a degree like the woman, but he's intelligent enough to have conversation, that can work. But I normally say to the men, still equip yourself. Read a book. Expose yourself by going to seminars and so on. So your level of education or intelligence, how you can communicate with one another. I saw some statistics in Jamaica some time ago that says 94% of divorce in Jamaica that year was petitioned by women. And the reason is that the women are saying, and it's not because of domestic violence or unfaithfulness. The majority of these divorce cases were women saying, I cannot communicate with my husband. So intelligence and level of education is important. What we have now is that...
I hear somebody saying, however, that intelligence does not necessarily align with having a degree.
A degree, not necessarily so. So there are some persons who expose themselves, they don't have a degree, but they expose themselves in the formal system, and they might learn skills, and they might go to seminars and read books. I had an elder in one of my churches that people called him pastor, but he had never been to a university.
And I was going to pull on that, because your pastoral experience would have lent itself to you seeing and experiencing where individuals on the local ground, in the local community, that they actually come with a level of common sense.
Yes.
And more marriages were surviving back then without education, Pastor, than they are surviving now with the education. But is there a way to explain that?
But there are many other factors why they would survive too. And so when we talk about the persons who are not in, they might not go to a university, but they still need to expose themselves because there are hard skills and soft skills that you will learn by exposing yourself to the formal
So
system.
can we then indicate, can we then say that education is not just what we receive in the formal learning system?
That's right.
That education can be someone that is so learned, somebody is so emotionally intelligent,
Yes.
so socially aware,
Yes.
that the person is able to have intellectually sound, stimulating conversations with his or her partner.
Yes. But I'm still saying, if you have the opportunity, expose yourself academically. But
Let's look
agree
on the
with-
other point. We got you loud and clear.
Loud
The
and
financial status and social practices.
Yes.
Compatibility there. Can you be mismatched financially and in relation to social practices? How do you see that unfolding itself?
Yes, and especially in a culture where the man is expected to be a breadwinner, even when the women get education. And,
But most women are breadwinners now.
yes, and I'm saying now that it makes it, and let me start with the men, that especially now when women are equipping themselves, that men need to equip themselves to earn. And if they don't have a degree, they need to have certifiable skills to earn. And a woman would be more, easier to excuse a woman who is not bringing in bread because culturally it's not expected. But the woman still doesn't want to be dependent on the man. So every woman, whether she chooses to work or not, should be equipped with certifiable skills or degree so that she can work if the need arises. And every man should equip himself because the society expects that he should be the main breadwinner.
But Doc, what if the person that I am interested in, what if the person that my heart is drawn towards, what if this person really doesn't have any funding? The person has equipped his or herself financially, educational wise, but it does not have the finances.
Then
are you saying that that it could be a major point?
It could be a challenge, especially if he's the man, as I said, but it doesn't have to be. There's another term that I normally recommend, that ambition is important. So a woman might take on a man who doesn't have the money.
Or a man take on a woman.
Or a man take on a woman who does. And as I said, the reason I start with the man is because society says that the woman may choose not to work and the man has to take care of her. So I generally start with the man. That the woman might choose, she's employed and she might choose to take on a man who does not have money, but he equips himself and he has the ambition to get money. If he has the ambition, in the Jamaican society today, he's likely to be able to earn in the future.
Before I get my wrap-up signal for the first segment, speak to me about the family upbringing and how that can enable, or how that works in the midst of this mismatch.
Values are caught and taught in the family relationship. So history and statistics shows that certain values that are taught in the family can be perpetuated from generation to generation. For example, domestic violence learned in the family can be perpetuated. It is not the final will and testament. Counseling and education and religion can help to change that. But generally, domestic violence, love and family worship was taught in my home, especially Friday night Vespers, can be perpetuated from generation to generation. And even divorce or family resilience can be perpetuated. So your family values with the family person's family background is important. So in doing premarital counseling, I would do what we call a family genogram to look at the social and spiritual and financial and development of the individual, and it can give an indication of how successful they will be in the relationship.
It sounds to us that there's more to the human love connection relationship than just whether or not I see you and I like you, whether or not you make my heart go boom, chicka boom, and other factors can come into play. And so Dr. Dennis, I want us to flip the conversation a little then to what is incompatibility. Because in your book, you indicate that incompatibility would mean that the two people are so different that they cannot survive together.
Yes.
I thought that that was a very significant way to bring out the point of incompatibility.
Yes, yes.
The incapacity of survival in a shared space. Unravel that for individuals, because we've looked on what compatibility could look like, but let's now look on the flip of that, what incompatibility is.
So there are three terms that I introduce in that topic.
Yes.
One of them in our discussion before this interview, you shared that you don't like that term, which we may get a chance to look at. And I deal with the matter of unequally yoked.
Yes. And
then the other term is compatibility.
Yes.
And there's another term that comes up in the chapter, which is complementarity. So compatibility, I focus on persons who are aligned and alike. That's where you start your...
So compatibility
is
alignment.
Yes, and alikeness.
And alikeness.
So you're heading in the same direction. You're talking about your goals and objectives. You're talking about your age.
Goals and objectives means that we're on the same
5 years where you want to be, if you want to study, if you want to have children, how many children you want to have. So you want to own a house, a 3-bedroom or a mansion, your goals and objectives. So we talk about your age, your goals and objectives, and so on. There are some areas that you should be alike and aligned in. And those areas, and religion is one of them. And so there are those areas, but there are some areas that you should be opposites to. And one of the first areas the Bible says is male and female. God made male and female. And then also temperament is one of those areas that you can be opposite, that the talker will marry a listener and the sanguine like yourself, sir, outgoing. Yes, man. And the life of the party will marry oftentimes a person who is more reserved. Sometimes you find an outgoing person marrying an outgoing person. And that can create personality clashes. So the ideal, and if you have an outgoing person marry an outgoing person, somebody will have to tone down a little bit for the relationship to work. You know?
Okay.
So incompatibility then.
You are defining the second era. So you dealt with compatibility
and complementarity. Which I mentioned would be where they are different.
Okay.
But I want to move back now to the fact that you asked me about incompatibility now. So incompatibility, therefore, is you're not aligned. You're not aligned in your age. You're not aligned in your goals and objectives. So I want a 3-bedroom, but you want a 10-bedroom. That can put us under some financial strain, and which I will not accept. I prefer to drive a nice car and live in a 3-bedroom rather than to be stressed out to build a 10-bedroom. You know, I want, so incompatibility is where you're not aligned in those particular social areas, your culture, your age, your finances, and so on.
Doc, it sounds to me as though we need a barometer to determine the weight that each would actually, because I can see the young persons listening, watching, and indicating. So how do I determine which, because no person comes with everything all. My finances may be all down here and my education is up here. I may have status in the middle, but I don't have the other dimensions.
Yes.
How do you balance it out? Because some individuals become overwhelmed when they are trying to make a selection and they have to consider all these different variables.
And I was doing an interview recently similar to this. And one young lady indicated that she had a list of 41 things that that she has, and I became scared. And I encouraged her to summarize that list to no more than 7.
Okay.
So we're not telling the young people or persons who might be looking, that they are interested in a relationship to put these values to a point where they become a blockade and you can't establish. Relationships should flow naturally. And in the first chapter, you will see how relationships are established. Friendship dating, courtship, engagement, marriage. So if a relationship should flow naturally, and so you start sifting based on similarities and differences naturally. So you're friends with a person, right up top you will know if they are 50 and you are 25, and if they didn't look 50, they look like 35. Over time you will find out. It's not like you're going to be asking the person as soon as you meet them, you know, how old are you? You're talking with somebody and it's growing into a friendship relationship. You have to decide now how far to go with that friendship and what direction to channel that friendship when you find out certain things. So no commitments up front, meet people, generalize, that's the term I use, generalize before you specialize, and get to know people, and your values and standards are in your heart. And you will know over time if this is a workable relationship for marriage.
This is Bless TV one-on-one with Dr. Roy Dennis, the Family Ministries Director of the Jamaica Union Conference and co-author of this book, Premarital Preparation Handbook. We're going to come back after this short break and go into our second segment as we look on the topic, spiritually mismatched, why it feels right but goes wrong. We'll be right back.
Celebrations, choices. Life is full of choices. Every day you make countless decisions, all adding up to determine the overall fabric of your life and, to a large extent, your health. Everyone has to deal with the consequences of their choices, but with the abundance of options to choose from, it's easy to forget about the impact they have. The good news is there's a solution. The key to decision making is intentionality. Intentionality means making evidence-based decisions. It gives direction and order to your life. Considering your choices with intentionality brings you one step closer to doing the right thing for your health. Regardless of the choices you've already made, today is an opportunity to choose better, to start fresh. You may not be able to change the consequences of your past decisions, but that's okay. You can choose to get over your mistakes and live better from now on. Invite God to be part of your decisions. Ask Him to help you make the right choice.
Welcome back. This is Bless TV. Catch the vision, share the mission. I'm your host, Omar Z.D. Oliphant, and I'm happy to have with me in studio Dr. Roy Dennis, the Family Ministries Director for Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, and also co-author together with his wife of this book I have in my hand, Premarital Preparation Handbook. You can get a copy at any of the Adventist book centers across the entire island. We were speaking the last section about alignment, and alignment is very important.
Right.
There's a Jamaican song that says, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Yes.
Which brings about the focus on feelings. Feelings as the basis of the relationship. You know, I feel loved, I feel cared for, all of that. My question to you here is, can something feel peaceful emotionally and yet it is spiritually dangerous?
Yes, because feelings, one thing about feelings is that feelings is neither right or wrong under every circumstances. Some people believe that because they feel a particular way, then the thing must be right, must be correct. You have to check every spirit, if I should use a biblical concept.
You can.
You know, that you need to check every spirit. And so the young man walked over to me some time ago and said, Pastor, there's a young lady from my church who said that the Lord told her that I should be her husband. But I don't feel that I should be her husband. And I said, all right, she feels that he should be the husband. He does not feel that way. I said to him, well, if the Lord told her, then the Lord needs to tell you. Right? And I also ask him, you know, God has given us a head to think and to make decisions. So it is not just feelings, but we need to be rational. And there are certain values and standards that you must use to test the spirit.
Let's speak about some of those values and standards. Let's help them along.
Yes. So before I go there, I don't want persons to think now that we should rule out feelings. Let me just establish that feelings are important. That is important. And normally in premarital counseling, I ask, you know, what are some of the things that you are attracted to? So attraction and feelings is important. That's the first thing that grabs you. I feel good about the person because the person looks good or because of the person's personality. But you're going to now evaluate how the person behaves in order to make a decision.
And sometimes that evaluation is over a long period of time. It doesn't happen immediately. So that maybe coincides with the dating process.
Yes, yes.
And some persons are able to mask during the dating process. But let's get back to the values, some of the values that we can use to test as we go along.
Yes. And so in one of the chapters in the book, we deal with 10 issues that determine success or failure in the relationship. And chapter 6 deals with the sessions that we will conduct, which covers those topics.
Okay.
And those tools, those major tools, Prepare Enrich is one of the most popular in the Americas. And they give 10 key principles.
Yeah.
Your family background. So as you meet people, you feel good about them. But I'm going to use the Jamaican one. Suppose the family are involved in Obia. And the person believe in Obia.
Yeah.
You know, you have to start changing your feelings now.
What individuals can use as a guide in helping them in deciphering whether or not this is the way to go or not?
Right. So as Prepare Enrich is one of the most sophisticated instrument for premarital preparation in the Americas. And they have 10 key issues that we should look at. Your family background is important. Your communication, how the communication styles, can you have conversation together? So feelings was there, but you find that you are not able to communicate with one another. Then over time that will change. Conflict management.
Yes.
How do you deal with conflicts? We talk about finance, how you deal with finances, how you think about finances, person's views on sex and family planning, and so on. And so those are some of the things that you would look at. The person's religious beliefs and practices, you know, parenting beliefs and disciplinary practices. You know, so these are some of the things that you would look at. You need to know the person's, what a female needs to know what a male needs. And a male needs to know what female needs. So you're going to be looking at those needs. What's the man's number one need? Some people say sexual intimacy. But I have found that the number one need for the man is respect. So you need a woman, therefore, in making a selection, you know, a man rather, in making a selection, should select a woman who respects him, because that's his number one need. And a woman selecting a man should select someone who can communicate with her, because that's her number one need. So you need to know the needs of the male need to know the needs of the female, and the female need to know the needs of the male. And I would say to any woman, because sex is still high on the man's list, that if you want to get married and you don't want to have sex, marriage is not for you. You can't married and after 2 years you want to strike. And
well, there's some persons today who actually have sexless marriage. Yes. It is actually a growing phenomenon. It
is. But it is one of the most important factors. And if you make a decision before that, and the man says, "I don't need it,"
I sometimes find that because where we place it, sometimes it may seem as though it is more a need of the man than it is a need of the woman.
Yes.
But I understand the
primary but it is also secondary. An important need of the woman.
All right. So let's look on the mismatch in the context now of what I know many persons would have expected the conversation to go.
Yes.
Because the scriptures do speak about not being spiritually aligned in a very specific way.
Yes.
And I want you to share with young individuals, even some seniors, adults as well, the concept. What is the view of scripture as it relates to spiritual alignment?
Yes. I think in this chapter 2, you would see some. Let me see if I can find where that text is found here. I think
Leviticus.
Yes. Leviticus. Let me go. Is it chapter 2? Deuteronomy 7, 3 and 4. Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers.
Yes.
For what fellowship has righteous with lawlessness, and what communion has light with darkness? And then 2 Corinthians 6 and verse 14. Some persons view this text to be prejudicial. To say, oh, because you're a Christian, you don't want to relate to non-Christian. This is not a prejudicial statement. This is a statement that is speaking specifically to religious beliefs and practices. And the scriptures is saying that if the person doesn't have the same spiritual values as you do, you are mismatched.
But let me ask you the question though, Dr. Dennis.
And that you're going to have some consequences to face if you marry such a person.
Yes, but let me ask you the question that I've been hearing from the younger generation listening in the church to these kind of presentations.
Yes.
Let me ask you the question. Can one be of the same faith and still be mismatched?
Mismatched, but not unequally yoked.
Can one be, no, let me ask you, can one be of the same faith and be unequally yoked?
No.
So explain the biblical concept then.
So,
of being unequally
so
yoked.
that is why I separate unequally yoked from incompatibility.
Okay.
So unequally yoked is purely religious. God in the scripture says, don't marry the person. And it was in the context of idolatry in the Jewish society that there were other nations that were worshiping other gods. That God is saying, if you marry into these nations, then idolatry is going to take over your nation. It's purely religious. But there are persons who are of the same religious perspective who still, it will not work for them because of, remember some of those values now that we gave for compatibility, that they don't have the same goals and objectives. So they are not, so you could have two good Christian from the same church, from the Seventh-day Adventist church, or from the Baptist church. They are from the same denomination, but they are not. They don't have the same goals and objectives. Maybe even their spirituality is not at the same level. They are not of the same age range. They are not of the same intellectual abilities. And so they are not. So the relationship, even though they could be equally yoked or have the same religious perspective, they are incompatible.
So the equally yoked, let's see if we can clearly define it. The equally yoked refers to a Seventh-day Adventist with a Seventh-day Adventist, or does it extend itself to a Seventh-day Adventist to a Seventh-day Baptist?
All right, so that's a very technical one. I was hoping you wouldn't ask that question.
Oh, no, I will.
Yes, so but for the Seventh-day Adventist, I can say the Seventh-day Adventist says it does not extend itself to the Seventh-day Baptist.
Why though? Why?
But and because we believe that there are still some beliefs that the Seventh-day Baptist does not hold. For example,
but the person could
worship
be,
on the Sabbath.
The person could be a very good Christian. The person could be someone who models the character of Christ,
Yes.
who is loving, who is kind, who is trustworthy, who is honest, etc.
Yes.
And the Adventist that you want me to marry, they could say, is somebody that is totally out of whack with honesty or other areas.
Yes, and one of the big areas would be the Sabbath. I was hoping you would use somebody worship on a Sunday, then I could easily say
I'm
no.
using the Seventh-day Adventist with the Seventh-day Baptist.
Yes, and I'm saying now there are still some doctrines that the Adventist Church now would say is unique to the Adventist Church.
Don't you think that it's
Yes.
not? Don't you think you're losing out on a on an evangelistic opportunity to win the person over to the faith? Has not that been the case for some?
Right. So that now we could extend to all other denominations to say, why not marry the person and win them over? And you know, when you get into a love relationship with someone, you are not the best person to witness to them. And for some who have gotten married to persons from other religious persuasion, they were able to win them over. But many others were not able to win them over. And so let's use Solomon. Solomon intermarried with many women from various, and instead of Solomon winning them to his faith, we see that he was now exposed to their idolatry, and that became a thorn in his flesh. Samson insisted that he would marry outside of the Jewish beliefs and practices. We found a woman at Timnath, and then he found Delilah, and that led to his demise. So, and as I said, for the Adventists believe in doctrine. Some churches say they don't believe in doctrines. And I think the main issue for the Seventh-day Adventist Church is, do this person believe some of the doctrines that I believe are salvific? That is it for the Seventh-day Adventists, not just the Sabbath.
So, for clarity, for those individuals...
So we would talk about the sanctuary, and we talk about the gift of prophecy and all, and some other beliefs that we hold.
So you're saying that a person's marriage must be hinged, or is hinged, and relationship is hinged on the doctrinal belief that they have as well.
Yes, that is important, because especially if you're going to have children, that can be a challenge.
I can see the comments in the chat in my mind's eye.
That can be a challenge.
Yes.
And let me hasten to say, and so what happens when a person goes ahead and marries someone who is not of their beliefs and views and religious beliefs and practices? Well, we have some scriptural evidences of that. In Ruth, you will read in Ruth chapter 1 that that Naomi and her husband went to Moab, and that the sons were married to Moabite women. And when Ruth was returning, we know when Naomi was returning, we see how Ruth embraced her religion. A
classic example,
yes,
of how conversion takes
conversion.
place.
But you see, the circumstances is that they, based on situationally, they had to be in Moab, and so there are circumstances where the person is able to minister and to win them over. As I said, there are other circumstances where that did not happen. I personally know of an elder who was married to someone from a church, the Sunday church, that doesn't worship on the Sabbath like he does. And for many decades they were married, but she respected his religion and she would support him on anything that he does. And they were able to conduct their relationship. But I know of others that it did not work out that well. So and especially if you have children, it will become a serious challenge, because sometimes the children find it difficult to choose their religion. Some of them will choose not to accept religion at all because of confusion in the home.
Well, there you have it. You have Dr. Roy Dennis breaking down for us a very important aspect of being spiritually mismatched, the biblical concept of being unequally yoked. But, I can, as I said, I can see the questions coming and the comments coming in the chat. Yes. I want to speak with you a little, though, about the scripture telling us that two cannot walk together unless they agree. And this spiritual concept, this spiritual principle, do you find that it runs throughout the nature of the tenure of the relationship? I don't just mean now at the beginning, but in the middle towards the end. Is it a real manifestation of the marital union and the seasons that people go through?
And this is not a literalistic text that talks about agreeing on every point, because there are situations where you agree, there are situations where you sometimes have to agree to disagree and to move on in your relationship. But this is going back to the same issue of values and standards. Your goals and your objectives, your principles and standards that you hold, that they must align.
Right, but I specifically want to unravel what you said before, the alignment part just now, in relation to the differences, because is it that throughout the entire journey of the marriage or the relationship, we must be in agreement on everything?
And that is what I'm saying. It's not talking about agreement on everything. That, as I mentioned, sometimes you have to agree to disagree.
So walk us through that. What are some of the areas? How do we decide when we are to be in agreement, when we are agreeing to disagreeing, and when I can be in disagreement with you? How does it work?
There are some things that will definitely affect your relationship, like your religious beliefs and practice will affect your relationship. Like how you manage your finances will affect your relationship. But there are some things that you can disagree on that will not affect your relationship negatively. My wife and I demonstrated this some time ago at a couples retreat, where I had a quote. The young people say I must not call it a jacket, because you know what jacket means in our time. So I had a quote, and I referred to the quote as brown. I said, give me the brown coat. And my wife referred to the coat as green. So when I said to my wife, dear, could you pass me that brown coat? She said, which brown coat? She said, the green coat. And so we brought the coat after 13 years of disagreement on whether the coat green or brown to a couples retreat. And there were about 25 couples there. And what happened that day was a surprise to me. I held up the coat. My wife said, bring it and see what will happen. I held up the coat and I asked, what color is this coat? You know what happened? Almost all the men said it is brown. And almost all the women said it is green. Men and women see colors differently. Men and women communicate differently. So men and women women communicate details, men communicate facts. That is where the complementarity comes in. So agreeing is not just compatibility. Agreeing is complementarity. How you can support one another amidst your differences. So there are situations, those situations should not deter your relationship. So what I would do with that quote is that when I asked my wife to, so it surprised me. But the fact is, there's nothing I could have done to cause my wife to see the coat as brown. And there's nothing she could have done to cause me to see the coat as green.
So what we're saying is not every disagreement means that we are mismatched.
No. So that color, what I did is that when I said to my wife, could you pass the coat? And she said, a green coat. I said to her, I said, yes, dear. But in my mind, I said, the brown coat. I'm not saying it out loud to create any conflict. And that should not prevent me from holding her hands, praying with her, and sleeping in the same bed, even though we disagree on the color of the coat. So there are some things that will not hinder your relationship.
The reason I ask that, though, Dr. Dennis, is because in today's day and age, there are so many individuals, the younger generation in particular, who see every disagreement as a reason to walk away. And if you listen to if you read and listen to most of the divorce cases, there is this issue of irreconcilable differences that keep coming forward. And we want to know, how do we determine when something rises to the threshold to say, listen, different from when this is a genuine disagreement that just needs to be understood, accepted, and move on.
And even from, friendship into dating, you're going to find that one of the important things that you should look for is how the person relates to conflict, right? And so people will have differences and people will have conflict, and that is natural. And so conflict management skills you need to be able to identify those.
But I may not, hold on dear Pastor.
Yes.
I may not be wise enough, mature enough, or understanding enough to be able to do all of what you just said in terms of conflict resolution skills. I am not that self-aware. But I am still young. I'm still growing. I'm still young in my marriage, and I'm struggling.
Or dating.
Or dating. So that one aspect may be the major flaw for me right now.
What is that?
Should
The
the
conflict?
young not being able to manage conflict. Because like you said, people grow up in different family circumstances.
And that is why I take you back to dating, because you need to be able to manage it before you get married. I'm just saying that one of the things that you would look for in dating is how the person manage conflict.
A lot of the couples come to you, Pastor.
Yes.
A lot of couples come to me and they tell you, we have never had a quarrel. We're dating for 3 years.
Yes.
And I love him, and we have one of the ways I know that he loves me and she loves me is that we have never had a quarrel.
They should date a little longer. They should date a little longer because they should see how the person respond to conflict. And what causes us now to make the decision is how the person relate to the conflict. Because this is where you identify now if the person is pushing you around, if the person is going to hit you, if the person is going to shout at you.
The red flag.
Yeah, so you start looking for the red flags. So, and I'm saying, if you date a person for 1 year, you're going to see how they respond to conflict. You might not have a quarrel.
Listen,
might not have
some people are good maskers.
Not for 2 years. If you're dating, if you're seeing each other at least once per week for up to 2 years, you will have some situation.
So if you're not having a conflict, invent one.
I'm not going to say that. Or even if you want to do that to see how the person will respond. But I am guaranteeing anybody dating out there that if you're dating for, I would say at least 1 year, but up to 2 years minimum, and you will see some situation that will cause the person. And conflict does not mean that you have to quarrel. So there are 4 ways people deal with conflict. You walk, you talk, you blow off your top. What they say now. All right. So yes. So you walk, you talk. I'm missing one, but there are different ways that people deal with conflict, and you're gonna see now if they will, when there's a conflict, they will run away, or they will not respond, or if they will talk about it. And if they will quarrel or fight, aggressive, right? Yes. So you are aggressive, assertive, passive aggressive, aggressive, assertive, passive aggressive. And I'm still missing one there. But there are 4 ways that people deal with conflict. So you want to see if they are aggressive, assertive, or they are passive aggressive, or passive. Yes, that's the 4th one. So in the relationship now, if the person is assertive, then that's the person to choose. If the person is aggressive, then maybe what you need now...
Some persons can't deal with the assertive people.
Yes. Assertive, they can't deal with... Talk to me about that.
That's another conversation.
Yeah, another conversation. So you now suppose you find the person is passive. Then you want to get the person more engaging in conversation. Suppose you see that the person is aggressive. You would want to express yourself. If you're an assertive person, you would want to talk to them about that. And if they are so aggressive and you need further professional help, you might need to seek that before you get seriously involved in a relationship with that person.
Well, Dr. Dennis, I'm getting the wrap-up signal from our producer. Thank you so very much for sharing with us today. The complexities of the human relationship goes way beyond just looking on someone and saying, I like you. Just saying, I love you. It involves so much more than just the beauty that we see on the outside. It has to do with the relational involvement. It comes with the perspective and the values. And being able to select a life partner is important, yes, but also being able to understand the complexities will enable one to have a sustained, long-term, happy relationship. We want to thank you for joining with us here one-on-one, this time with Dr. Roy Dennis. This is Bless TV. I'm Omar Oliphant. Catch the vision, join the mission, and see you next time.